With Six Flags America closing at the end of the year, it opens up the possibility of some rides being relocated to other parks within the chain. Will any of them be coming to Kings Island? Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you so much, Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Horneck, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Dakota Cole, and welcome to our newest Prestige member, Lac Ray. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics on the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams. We've been going live a lot on like Wednesday nights, by the way. And some tiers even get some free stuff. So hit that link in the description. So this is going to be interesting because we're going to start off with a listener question because this is what got us thinking. So Paige from Indianapolis, Indiana said, with Six Flags America closing, do you think they will piece away the rides and send it to other parks, or will Six Flags try to find a buyer for the park? I love the show and it helps get me through the beginning of my work days. Keep up the work and hope to see you guys at the park. Well, we hope we see you too, Paige. So she kind of inspired this. We both saw this coming down the pipeline as far as how is this going to affect Kings Island, but
yeah, we did. But a little background though for everybody, if you aren't aware, Six Flags, that park is home to the oldest coaster in the Six Flags portfolio. The park is set to close later this year. Six Flags Entertainment announcing that the property is no longer a, quote, strategic fit with the company's long-term growth plan. Six Flags America in Hurricane Bay, that's located in Bowie, Maryland. It joined the Six Flags family through rebranding in 1999, and the final operating day is going to be November 2nd. So if you haven't been there, time is running out. So, definitely pay a visit. Park originally opened in 1974, just a couple years after Kings Island, as Wild World, later becoming Adventure World, before being rebranded the Six Flags banner back in 1999. For me, what it means to me with Six Flags, remember when I think about that, it's the home to the Wild One. It's a classic wooden roller coaster that dates back to 1917. Originally known as the Giant Coaster of Paragon Park. That's where I rode it for the first time. That was in Paragon Park was in Massachusetts, and it was located to the Maryland Park in 1986. And despite being as old as it is, over a century, the Wild One, it remains fun, it remains thrilling. A lot of history, a lot of nostalgia there, and that came to mind to me as what's going to happen with that. So with this, the park closing, obviously there's speculation as to, what rides might go where, what they might do with the property. And are there any rides that could come to Kings Island?
Yeah, it's funny. So I think it's fair to kind of disclose this, but the original idea that you and I had when we were tossing it around is let's go through all the rides and kind of rank what we think are possible to go to Kings Island. And what we found was there aren't a lot,
No, there's not.
There's one that a couple people have brought up. No, it's not a coaster. Stay tuned. And then there's the other one is it was your proposal. Let's just start with that.
Yeah, mine would be it's a ride that they call Riddle Me This. It would be an intriguing fit, for Kings Island. It would be great for nostalgia buffs. Kings Island had a similar ride to this. It was called Halley's Comet. It opened with the Kings Island in 1972. It was removed after the 1979 season, originally located, kind of near where the Zephyr is right now, but then later moved back a little bit closer to where the entrance to the Vortex was. So it was a popular ride. I really enjoyed it when it was at Kings Island. It's what you call a roundup style attraction. The riders they stand in a large circular cage, and as the ride spins, centrifugal force it pins the riders to the wall, and the cage gets tilted vertically to 45 degrees. And, it creates a fun and thrilling experience. So this one was introduced in 1982 at Six Flags America. So that's something I think, for nostalgia purposes, I think it would fill a role that Kings Island needs in terms of adding more flat rides that families can ride together. So for that reason, I'd like to see it come to Kings Island.
Would you call it Halley's Comet if you brought it back?
I would. I'd bring back, that name for the attraction. When it relocated at Kings Island after 1975, a little bit deeper in the Coney Mall, when it first opened, it had the, part of the shooting star where it had the big, Comet was attached to it. But when they removed it back further in Coney Mall, they didn't include that with it. But I would bring back that too. So it looks like it did when it opened in 1972. I think it would be fun. I think guests would enjoy it. Kings Island has a nice lineup. When you look at the coasters, nice water park, nice kids area, but I still think they're lacking in the depth of flat rides. They have some good ones. They've made progress. They've added Soul Spin. They added Cargo Loco, but they need more. Most of the flat rides are in the the kids area. So I think you need more in Coney Mall, maybe some more toward Action Zone, Adventure Port area. Rivertown could use a couple of flat rides. So I think you need more of that. And this is something that you could put it back in Coney Mall. You could almost put it back in the spot where it was before, back in the late part of the 70s. Or you could actually put it in Rivertown. I mean, there's room there, for a nice flat ride. So there's a lot of possibilities with it. I think it would have to be, someone, first of all, at Kings Island would have to recognize that, hey, we had that ride before.
Right.
As the years have gone by, a lot of people have retired at Kings Island. People have come off the streets with really no knowledge of Kings Island, past, the 2015-16 range, as they brought in new people. So I think it's something that if they just went through the page, Six Flags America, nothing would really pop out to them as saying that there's a reason why this should come to Kings Island. But for the few that were around back in the day, or the guests that remember this ride, I think this would be, it would be something that'd be easy to relocate, something that'd be easy to fit in different parts of the park, and something that guests would enjoy. So I would be all about this. Bring it back, name it Halley's Comet, and you got yourself a winner.
So 2 thoughts, Don. First of all, you kind of glazed over this. I had no idea that the sign was from the shooting star. I think you can see it in the image for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Look at Scrappy's slide and then just go to the right a little bit and you'll see the star more so than the ride. I didn't realize that was from the shooting star. That's a really
it was a tribute to the shooting star because they didn't rebuild the shooting star. You didn't relocate to Kings Island. So that was something that they wanted to do to pay tribute to it. But the popularity of the racer when it first opened in 72, it allowed them to kind of move on from the shooting star. And when they relocated Halley's Comet a little bit deeper into Coney Mall, it didn't accompany, back then. They kept the name Halley's Comet, but they didn't put that, that piece to it. But I would bring that back. We saw what happened at Winterfest, when they had the tribute to the shooting star. Guests loved it, right? So something like this, again, it's it's an easy attraction to relocate. It's an easy attraction to install somewhere in your park, and nostalgia buffs would like it. And it's an add to your flat ride collection, which is a little bit lacking.
Yeah. So the other thought was, I think that the undersell, the trap they might fall into, like if they were sitting at the board meeting of like, oh, should we do this? Is no, because nobody that remembers that ride still visits the park. Well, I've got a nostalgic place for that ride at my age. It was gone before I was born, I think, or at least before I visited Kings Island. But that was one of my first thrill rides ever, and the Electric Rainbow at Americana / the Swordsville Lake, which is now at Stricker's Grove. That ride has a lot of nostalgic value for me. So to have that,
it's there. Yeah, exactly.
I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that. And it seems like that sort of ride, like it's kind of mobile in nature in a lot of cases. So I don't think it would be they could probably build it in a weekend if they wanted to tear it down and rebuild it.
It wouldn't take long. No, it wouldn't take. I mean, it would take longer to, get all the electrical, all tied in and everything than it would to, build the structure.
I think the Stricker family built. I mean, they had theirs, and it was like in a field, but they got it together in in no time
Quickly.
once they started building it. Um,
But I think, like I said, I think this would it'd be easy. It's a great story for the news media to say we're bringing back a ride that was here from 72 to 79. So there's that nostalgia play with it. It wouldn't be the same exact ride. I mean, it is the same ride, but it wouldn't be the exact one that you had before. But I remember when that was taken out. They didn't have social media back then, so nobody really knew it was gone until you showed up at the park the next year in 1980 and it wasn't there. That was when they began construction on the bat, and so they took it out at that point in time. But it would be something that I think longtime fans would like to see, and then those that travel around to other parks. This is a popular ride at a lot of places. So why wouldn't it be popular at Kings Island?
rig it up with lights, kind of like the like the
you could have a lot of fun with that. And here's another ride for you to operate during Winterfest.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's no downside to doing this. So if the park's closing, grab that ride. Make a claim now that you want that one before some other park does.
Right. Now, the other possibility that, and I feel like everybody, they're going to roll their eyes because this is quite obvious, but this Zamperla Nebula, as they call it, steam whirler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a gaping hole in Kings Island's lineup too. I feel like the Roundup, the Halley's Comet ride are one that they need, as well as an S&S Scream and Swing, which we're all rooting for, I feel like. But this is one that's visual. It's perfect for Coney Mall. As much as I hate to say it, it would really fit in the monster spot.
I was just going to say that both of them would fit in the monster spot.
Yeah.
But I would, I think that would be a really, if you have to replace the monster, this would be a ride to do it with. And the other thing about this doesn't have a lot of miles on it. It opened last year. So it's still a relatively brand new ride.
This is going somewhere.
So, yeah, it's definitely going somewhere. And why not Kings Island, right? It also fits that description, both of them do, of family thrill that they're adding for next year. So it would be new to Kings Island. So even though they're used rides, it would fit that description, and it would be a much more better way for the company that doesn't have a lot of money to spend to do it. Is to relocate some of these rides and give other parks new attractions that way. And maybe that was what they had in mind. This ride, when they said a family thrill ride going to Kings Island, because it wasn't like they just decided a couple weeks ago we're closing Six Flags America. They knew that, several months ago, when the merger was going through, that was one of the ones they had earmarked, that this wasn't going to fit the long-term strategic plan. So that is not news. So by the time that they announced, that all the parks, what they were getting in 2026, that could have been something that they thought, okay, Kings Island, but somebody's getting this one.
That it's certainly going somewhere. Now, the way that they play favorites, and Kings Island is not a top tier of their favorites. They've got Cedar Point for that. I could see that if they were gonna put one of these at like a Worlds of Fun or something, they would just get a new one for Kings Island and give this one to Worlds of Fun, just because I feel like that's how they operate. And that's not even Six Flags now. That's dating back to how Valley Fair got Cedar Point's old Wildcat coaster, and Cedar Point got a brand new exact same coaster, but they sent the old one to Valley Fair. So like I feel like a situation like that could be possible. Now I will say with the steam whirler, I've never ridden one in the wild, but I did ride it at IAAPA, and I assumed that the ride would be more fun to look at than it is to ride. Totally not the case. Very visual from the outside. I think it'll draw a crowd just to watch it. Very fun to ride. Just, constant airtime as you're going through those things, and it's very disorienting. If they were to announce that one of these was coming to Kings Island, I'd be pretty excited about it.
I would too. Ryan, so we've got two rides. Both would fit what Kings Island needs.
Mm-hmm.
Build the flat ride lineup out. Both would appeal to a broad range of guests. It's fun. It's thrilling. So it all works. So there's a lot. So the possibility, could be there, but again, you'd have to have, also somebody at the park, champion wanting one of these two rides or even both. Why not both at Kings Island? So, um, but again, combing through that, list of all the different flat rides, and that there wasn't anything but these two that I thought would be a fit at Kings Island. There was a lot of different, Kings Island has a carousel, they have a scrambler, they have, some of the other rides that are there. So that leaves us with the roller coasters.
Yeah,
they've got
well,
9.
we're gonna do our due diligence because this is what people were gonna ask about. So I'm just gonna go on their website. We'll scroll through. Unfortunately, you can't sort by roller coaster for some reason. It's just by thrill ride, and a lot of it's water park. So just bear with me. But we'll start off with Batwing Coaster. The chance of that coming to Kings Island is a -5 out of 10. I would say.
There's no chance.
No chance. Well, I would say a non.
Now, a lot of these, before we go down the list, a lot of them have a lot of age.
Mm-hmm.
They are already rides that were relocated to this park from other parks. So, the chance of it finding a third or even fourth home, not great.
Well, and also it should be noted that this is that 1-for-1 exact clone of Firehawk too. So we've been there, done that with this thing, and I don't think.
Yeah. No chance we're going back to that again.
No chance. Yeah.
Nobody's going back to that. That one's going to just be it's going to just be demolished.
Remember, Nighthawk is being demolished right now, or it has been demolished. This is the last one of its kind, and it's going to go. So the old Flying Dutchman from Vekoma will be extinct by the time it's done. Next up, Firebird Floorless Coaster.
No chance.
You don't think there's no chance at all?
No.
I mean, I think it looks cool, and so I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't be super excited about it, but because the floorless stuff is kind of passe. But I could see this going somewhere, maybe. I just don't think that this would move the needle enough for a park like Kings Island for them to incur the cost of having another steel roller coaster there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Just making sure I'm not talking to myself sometimes, because I often do that.
Oh, no.
Let's see here. We're getting saucy real quick. Firebird, Harley Quinn, that's not going anywhere. No. What about the SLC? What do they call it here? Professor Screamore Skywinder. Is that one going to go to Michigan's Adventure like the last one when they closed the park, or?
Yeah, I think that one could possibly find its way to maybe a Valley Fair, Worlds of Fun, something like that. But it's definitely not a ride that you're going to see at any of the upper end of the Six Flags parks.
I agree. I would say that there's a non-zero chance that it ends up somewhere else, but the reality is that it seems like even the parks that do the extensive work and get the new trains, and from what I've heard, this does have the new trains from the successor company to Vekoma.
That'll be what gets relocated, or the trains. The rest of it, I think it's going to get demolished.
Well, yeah. But like even Kentucky Kingdom, they did extensive work to theirs, got the new trains. I personally liked it a lot. Like it was just enough below my torture threshold that I could just really enjoy how crazy the layout is. Vast majority of people don't feel the same way. I would say the trains might go somewhere, but no, that ride that's done, man. So the SLC is not going anywhere. It's so hard to go back on this page. So this is possible here. A Wild Mouse, Raging Cajun.
Yeah, I think that will find a home. That was one I thought could be a possibility. You could put that at Kings Island, but again, I don't think so. That one's got a little bit of age to it also.
If they did this at Kings Island, it would have to be in conjunction with the other two flat rides we discussed.
You'd have to have a trio then. It's something like that. I'd rather have the other two than this one.
Oh, yeah.
But you could get that. You could put that over Adventure Port. Call it the Bavarian Beetle or something like that. I think that would would have that nostalgia play to it also. But I just don't see this one as a fit for Kings Island.
Yeah, I don't either. It's funny because Cedar Point added a modern spinning wild mouse coaster with wild mouse. The still fun.
I'll put this one at under 20% that it survives and ends up
So
anywhere.
you're saying there's a chance? No, I think it'll be demolished. But the thing though is with Wild Mouse at Cedar Point, they come out with these new versions of rides. For example, there's the Hoos Enterprise and what was it, the Zamperla Discovery? I always get confused because they're all named after space shuttles. But
Yeah.
for example, Soul Spin isn't as good as uh Skylab was. Just the nature of it just isn't as good. And I think that's true for a lot of like the new version of old rides. The Larson
Yeah, you're right. It's not as good,
the
no.
Larson
And it's the smaller model of the two that they could have gone with.
well, right. And the over the shoulder restraints and all that stuff when they had those cages you just kind of sat in. That was part of the thrill. And I think that's true with like the Larson flying scooters versus Bish Rocco. They're just not as good. But I would say that the exception is the Wild Mouse at Cedar Point, I think, is way better than any of these old Wild Mouse coasters. So if Kings Island were to get
Yeah,
one,
I enjoyed
I
that
would
one.
root for a new one. Okay. Roar.
No, that one's at the end too of its service life, I think.
Where do you think the trains are going to go? That's the real question at hand here.
Well, and there's a number of parts where that could go, but I don't think you're going to see that ride relocated.
I don't either. I think that even for Wild One, there's just no chance. It's just in today's world, it's so expensive.
Wild One, you'd love to see. I had so much fun on that ride when I was last at this park. Great roller coaster. It's got a lot of history. You want to preserve things like that. It is expensive to move that. Kings Island, I don't think would be a fit for that one. But there's a park that could definitely use that. I think you look at Cedar Point. What's missing from their lineup? A wooden
They
coaster.
are not going to move a wooden coaster.
No, they're not. Yeah, they wouldn't move that one there, but it would be good. What I would do with that one is I would put it back in its home state, move it to Six Flags New England, and had that run at Paragon Park. Long gone now, but not forgotten. So I would send it back home and give it to Six Flags New England.
Superman, Ride of Steel.
Great ride, but I think you're going to see the trains will end up somewhere. I don't think the ride ends up anywhere.
The train. Well, it's funny because if you let me see if I'm able to like zoom in on this at all. The trains kind of look different. I don't know if they would be exact matches to like Millennium Force or whatever. I know that sometimes like they could just fit on the track. No
Well, there's
problem,
parts. But there's parts and stuff you could use.
Right, and that's my thought. There's plenty of Intamin rides out there that could use these parts, but even this one was weird because it had that. They don't have a great photo here, but the original Superman like coasted over the water, and there was this long straight section, and they cloned it at this park, and they had this long straight section like 5 feet off the ground, but no water, so it was just weird.
No, just a lot of dirt, a lot of grass under it.
So unfortunately, I don't see Superman.
I mean, there would be the coaster enthusiasts that would be clamoring for that to come to, Kings Island. I could see why they would, but to me, it's not a fit. It's not what they need.
I would be beyond excited if a Superman clone came to Kings Island. I'm talking in reality new, here, though.
Yeah, brand new though.
Well, even that one, like I'd be excited regardless. I would love to have this, the Joker's Jinx, the outdoor flight of fear.
Yeah, that could be fun.
That is going to add some life to our flight of fear, though, because of parts, though, I imagine.
Yep, I think you're right. I think there'll be pieces of it that'll end up at Kings Island.
Yeah, there's no way that would be relocated. Superman, Joker's Jinx. All right, Wild One.
Yeah, Wild One's the one I think it should end up somewhere.
Well, it's presented by Snickers, so maybe it'll go to the M&M Mars company.
Yeah, but that's the one I really like is Wild One.
Unfortunately, it seems like regardless of history, when a park closes, like that's it. Because look at like Big Dipper at Geauga Lake, where it seemed like Cedar Fair. I mean, Cedar Fair had a real problem on their hands with that. I don't think they wanted to tear it down, but they also probably didn't really have any options with it. And I know in the comments people were going like they could have moved it to this park and this park. Well, it's got to be financially feasible to do it. It would cost a fortune to move it, and they probably just wouldn't get it.
Yeah, that one needs to go back home to Massachusetts, where it was at Paragon Park. So I think this one should go to Six Flags, New England.
So they've got the Harley Quinn Spin Sanity. Those have been problematic. That's not going anywhere. Voodoo Drop could find a new home, but they've closed some of these over the past couple of years. So some sort of low capacity park. How tall is this thing? 56 miles per hour, 140 feet. That's reasonably high.
There's just not anything else really there that, I don't think too many of the rides are going to find a new home anywhere.
This one's too similar to Windseeker, so this wouldn't probably go to a Windseeker park. But this, this Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth could find a home somewhere. A nice, like, low capacity park or something. That would be a good signature for some of those parks.
It would be. I think you could definitely find a smaller park that could use that ride.
Yeah. And that's all she wrote. I mean, I could see pumps and stuff like that coming from the water park and so on, but water slides aren't really relocated in today's world. If anything, they're replaced without mention. Sometimes they replace all the fiberglass in them, and it's just not a big deal because it's normal maintenance.
Yeah. So really, I think for me, and I would think there's a lot of people that it didn't catch anybody by surprise that Six Flags America is closing. That was one of the ones that everybody kind of had on their board when they started talking about the possibility of, after the merger, that we might sell some parks, we might close some parks. That one was right up to California's Great America.
It's funny, everybody was asking about Great America. Will this accelerate it? Will this cancel the closure and stuff? And I think you and I both had the consensus that it would accelerate it, and from all accounts it seems like it might do that. But then Six Flags America was
I don't the timing was the only thing that caught me off guard a little bit. Was I thought it would come at the end of July, beginning of August, that we're going to be closing, 6-8 weeks left in the season, last chance to come out and visit. That for this this park, they would give you a last chance. It wouldn't be just November 3rd, hey, park's closed, and nobody got a chance to say goodbye. But the timing was a little bit it was before I thought they would announce it, and I think a lot of that had to do with the earnings call on November 8th, I think, or May 8th rather. I think it had something to do with that, wanting to get in front of it a little bit. But it's always sad, I mean, this is, for a number of people, this is their home park.
Right.
This is where they grew up. This is where they had their first job. So it's always sad to see, it was never a park that, got the love outside of the local market than other parks do. But for me, yeah, it's sad. And I'm looking at the calendar, just trying to figure out a time that I might be able to visit one more time, take another ride on Wild One. It's going to be hard, but I'd like to do it.
Yeah. So my condolences to anybody who this is their home park. It's, as people that don't visit it regularly, it's easy for us to say it's a business decision and they probably weren't making money and blah, blah, blah. But man, if it was Kings Island and like they just had 10 bad years of only drawing like 800,000 people and they had to pull the plug, like I don't think, hey, it's a great business decision would be consolation. In fact, like even when they made the business decision to, end Winterfest, 2005, or close the Vortex or whatever, that's not really an answer that you want to hear regardless. So I'm sure that there are people that are really upset about it because the park's like a member of their family.
Right. And the times I visited, I never had a bad experience there.
Yeah.
I had fun. I thought the park, for what it was, wasn't expecting it to be, Magic Kingdom or anything like that, or even on par with a Kings Island. So I went in knowing that it was a smaller park, and that's what you expect. And I had, always a great time. A lot of times it's the people you're with too, help make it a good time. And so I have good memories of it. Never a bad experience.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to some Tower Topics tidbits for your information. Okay. We got a graphic for this. The park has a graphic for this. This Sunday, May 11th, treat mom for Mother's Day to an unforgettable brunch at the iconic international restaurant featuring stunning views of International Street, the Royal Fountain, and the Eiffel Tower. Enjoy a delicious buffet filled with classic breakfast favorites, chef specialties, a made-to-order omelet station, a build-your-own waffle station, and delightful desserts made just for her. Plus, capture the moment with charming family photos alongside the Peanuts gang. Brunch will be available 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. with 2 seating times. Park admissions required. Season pass holder discounts apply. Please note, dining plans are not accepted for this. This is great. This is the sort of stuff they should do. Do you remember? I'm sure you remember because you marketed it, but they had the barbecue for dad in the picnic. Sorry,
Yeah.
the picnic grove.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The ribs. Yeah, for dad and stuff. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Ran out of ribs.
Did you?
But yeah, I remember that.
I never did it
Yes.
because my dad
I had a
hated
news
barbecue.
station that called. Somebody was highly upset that they went there and that they were out of ribs, and they called one of the news stations. They wanted to come out and they wanted to talk to us about not having enough ribs.
Let me
So I do remember
So
that.
let me guess. That was everybody's joke of, oh, we better have enough ribs until somebody put on the season pass group that they ran out of hush puppies and they were very upset about it.
Yeah, but I just remember that it was. I mean, it was. Just a huge success.
Mm-hmm.
It was. The picnic grove was packed. With the dads out there wanting to get their ribs. So no, if you do these right, they're successful. I don't know. What else they did. I would think they would have tried to have Chef Perez on the morning shows this week talking about all the different food and everything like that. As far as I know, it was just on their Facebook page and just kind of there on their website. So the awareness for it might be limited to just those groups, so maybe it's not going to be as successful as it could be. So I don't know. Maybe they did get Chef Perez out, but that's when I saw that they were doing this. I was hoping that would be the plan, to get him to go into the studios and kind of cook some things up about this is what moms and the families can get, by taking advantage of this brunch.
Yeah, because it doesn't just sell tickets to this, it sells tickets to the park as well.
Exactly.
All right. So on an interesting note, the props from Madame Fatales are being cleared out of the former Crypt building in Rivertown, leading to speculation on fan sites and social media that that's where the 2026 family thrill ride could go. You and I, we talked about how we heard rumblings that entertainment or whoever's responsible for this was told to get their stuff out of there. Now, I want to be clear that this could be one of 3 possibilities. Number one is they're clearing it out because that's where the family thrill ride's going to go. It's going to go inside that building. Okay.
Hey, maybe my thing we talked about months ago, and you have the DC themed madhouse that goes in there by Bacoma.
Yeah, absolutely. Possibility 2 is they're getting rid of Madame Fatales and they're going to put another haunt in there. Also possible. Possibility
And they did need to refresh in that one. It was
1,000 years
it
old.
had been there for a long time. I want to say 2008 maybe.
Well,
2009 range.
they added it, and when they added it, it was like groundbreaking, and they had fire and stuff, and and after the first year, they don't really staff the mazes that much, and they take away the kind of cool effects and stuff. So yeah, it needs to be.
Yeah, no, it wasn't as early as 2008 because you still had the Crypt going at
It's
that time.
probably
So maybe
2010 or
but it's
so.
been at least 10, 12 years that they've had this.
Yeah, yeah. I probably 15. I think it was about 2010. I don't know. In the comments, when did they get rid of the Crypt? When did Madame Fatales come to be? The other possibility is that they do use this building for storage. This could be just related to that too, which would be kind of disappointing because I'd love to see this
You'd be
building.
down a Honda attraction if you did that. You're going to be down a Honda attraction if you make it a ride, for 2026.
Sure.
So, but that, to me, I like the outdoor stuff in Honda anyway. So just have more scare zones in that. I think that's where the fun is.
I like indoor mazes, but I also really, really like indoor rides. I think it's so atrocious that they have this giant building and nothing but possibilities. And they've got Haunt, they've got Rainy Days, they've got Winterfest, all these different times where they could be running whatever's in there. And they don't. They use it for a haunt that, has been around for 15 years or so. So I'm rooting for Family Thrill going in there. Actually, it'd be really cool if, they had an indoor. I wouldn't want to see like just like a ride in there because it would feel like you're riding at Scene 75 or something. But they have like do it in the dark or have lights or something like that. I think would be really neat.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to hide it for long.
Well, no.
If that's what's happening, if a ride's going in there, we'll know by the time we get past just a little past Memorial Day. At the latest, we'd be able to find out and figure out, what it is for 2026 and if it is in fact going into the Crypt building.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. It like I said, it'll be very, very interesting to see what's going on with that. Everything from absolutely nothing to very, very interesting is entirely possible.
Think of all the possibilities, though. I mean, usually the speculations, and you'd see those big threads on Kings Island Central in the forums. They're everyone like the next year speculation or new ride speculation, and normally you knew the spot, where it's going to go. But now you look at, okay, is it going in the Crypt building? Oh, is it going in the Vortex spot? Is it going where, Extreme Skyflyer, wants to? What about the Monster spot? Is something going in there if that doesn't come back? Oh, maybe Congo Falls is going to be retired. Is it going there? So I mean, there's just so many possibilities, out there, and that just really, adds to the fun and the speculation that we're going to see over the next few months.
You'd be surprised how polarizing Congo Falls is. Like, side note here, I'm looking in the comments today, as of this recording, is the day we dropped the Congo Falls could be retired episode, and it seems like 70% of the people are like, I never ride that thing. Just I'd rather have something better. And then you have 30% of like, that is the only ride I like. So
well, I mean, it's like I said, I'd hate to see it go. I have a lot of memories with it. Being on that first boat that ever went out on the media day event, getting drenched. So there's a lot of like sentimental memories in that. But I also know that its time has probably passed, and that the opportunity with that space is there to do something that would appeal to more guests, be more fun, and be something for the next 30 years for guests to enjoy.
Worst placement of any ride in the park. That and everything in the front is bad because you need to have something that really presents the park in a way, and especially when you walk in. So like having the backside of that ride and having Invertigo basically sticking out into the entrance, I think is such an eyesore. That ride, Congo, would be way better in Rivertown. I think that would make a lot more sense there because
it would have. That's what you would think. But they already at that point in time, they had just opened Whitewater Canyon in 1985. So 3 years later, they're opening this one. So I don't know that it would have been great to have two of them right near each other there in Rivertown, based on how close it was to Whitewater Canyon.
I understand that, but I've got the gift of hindsight. It's been almost 40 years, but the reality is Rivertown, that could have been the river that they're talking about for Rivertown. Because if you think about it, there's no reference to the river in Rivertown except for the name,
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay. Let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. Don, buy or sell. The Monster will not reopen this summer, and that area will be turned into seating for 21 and colder. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell. We've been told the Monster's coming back. They're just waiting on a part. So, right there is going to have me sell. But I also think if the Monster isn't coming back, there's going to be a new ride there.
Yeah.
And whether it's next year or 2027, there's going to be a new ride there. So if there was seating there for 21 and colder, it's going to be just temporary seating. That is a spot for a flat ride in Coney Mall. And if it's not the Monster, it's going to be something else. What about
you? Do you think that if they take out the Monster and you're probably right. They would probably put seating there temporarily if the ride was going to come in 2 years, and they're not going to make the decision on the Monster and then the next year have a ride available. It's just too short of a time frame. Have you heard about the guess your age and weight game over near the Diamondback Splashdown?
Yeah, that little pathway.
Well, they took out the game and
put one table there.
They put one table there. So do you think they'll just put one table in the middle? Now, I understand. It's probably they realized they needed to put something there, and they probably thought like, oh, 2 tables is a little crowded, so let's just put 1, and they're just kind of stuck there. But it looks really sad.
Why not put benches there? Just put some
They
benches.
probably
That would
just
have looked
grab
better.
something from La Rosa's. I mean, it may be different by the time the park opens today, as of this dropping.
Well, there's a lot of people that like to watch the splashdown of that with
Sure.
Diamondback. So why not just put some couple of benches there, let people and have it facing the lift hill and that, so people can watch and just relax there a little bit. But I think that would just look really odd, seeing that there's one table in that spot.
They needed something there. Cool, because they did like where the new the Coke not freestyle, but the Coke fountains are in Action Zone. They had that concrete poured for opening day last year, and they had 3 benches there and a planter in the middle. And it's like you put this concrete in for a planter. I don't understand. So I've got a feeling that they have some sort of plan for that spot. Maybe another drink stand. I don't know.
Wonder how many hours of discussion it was. Well, should we put one table there? Should we leave it blank? I mean, how many days they had to really think about that, what they were going to put there.
They probably spent a lot of time and money. Thank God they can just bring in Elon to do some cost cutting and remove fraud, waste, and abuse. All right, before we get in trouble, let's move on to some theme park headline news. All right. The Competition Bureau is suing Canada's Wonderland for allegedly making false or misleading price claims online. The Bureau states that the amusement park north of Toronto is advertising prices that don't include a mandatory fee of up to $9.99. It says Wonderland charges a processing fee for online purchases involving park admission that depends on the number of items purchased. The Bureau alleges Wonderland is advertising lower prices than what the consumers ultimately have to pay, a practice known as drip pricing. In a statement to CTV News, Wonderland said that the allegations made by the Bureau are unfounded. Now, what's funny about this is when this was going around online, all of these Americans are like, I don't see what they did wrong, because this is normal for us. Where it's like,
we say that all the time.
Because most countries, the price that you walk into a store includes taxes. So something costs $43.18 rather than $39.
Oh, even movie theaters are the worst.
Yeah.
If you buy your movie tickets online and that, I mean, you all of a sudden, wait a minute, it's $14 more than I thought it was going to be.
Oh no, I can top that, Don. So my brother and I went to that wrestling event back in January, the one in Indianapolis, and the tickets were expensive. And our service fees were $60 a ticket. $60 a ticket. That's lawsuit worthy. But this I don't know. It's probably a perspective thing, because they also don't advertise the meal plan. But if you add that, then it costs more than the price that was advertised, or daily meal plan or whatever. So I could see them seeing it that way. But this might also be that the brand, the people in Charlotte may not have known that is a part of Canadian law. Assuming that they actually did this will probably go to litigation of some sort.
There's when you go to the website, it does have that little asterisk, and it says applicable fees, apply, and that, so their taxes and fees apply. So there is that disclaimer there. It doesn't tell you exactly how much that is, but if you go to their website before you make that purchase, you do see it's normally at the bottom of all the stuff that it comes with it. Whatever the product is, at the bottom has that little asterisk, and it's in italics. It says those, fees and taxes apply. So they're letting you know that this isn't your final price, that there's going to be more. So I think they do what they can with it. I think that, if something's $49 and it's going to be a $9, processing fee, there are those that say just make it $58 on the website, and that you could do that. But I think what they're doing, I don't think what they're doing is out of bounds.
No, I don't think there's anything morally wrong with it. But like I said, in a lot of countries, you can't have a processing fee. You can't have taxes. It's got to be straightforward pricing. And it looks like that.
And there is a cost. Yeah, there's a cost associated with being able to sell you tickets, meal plans, other things online. I mean, it's not It's not free for the parks to do that. This is not I mean, I've seen that this is just a money grab. No, it's not. You do have to pay for all this to be done. Somebody managing that function for you. So there is a reason for that fee. It's not going into Six Flags pocket.
And ironically, it's a European company that probably charges that fee. Not going to name any names, though. Okay. We'll be right back with the listener questions. All right. Andy from Cleveland, he said, on the Coaster Stock itinerary, it says there will be other surprises. Any insights of what these surprises could be?
I think there will be some other things that weren't announced. I don't have the itinerary in front of me. Was there a sign shop tour?
I don't know.
Listed. So I think something like that. If it's not on the itinerary, maybe they surprise with that, or maybe it is an opportunity for some contest or something that a handful of people get to do that. We've had years when I was there where it was part of the itinerary, and we've had years it was part of the prize packages.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that. I think with the Gazillion Bubbles show is opening that weekend, that maybe they do something with maybe you get a sneak peek at that show.
Yeah, that would
maybe
be a good idea.
Priority seating, on the Saturday.
Right.
There's some gaps in the schedule.
And that show is way better up front, I might add. So that would be a really cool thing if you got to spend the first.
Yeah. So maybe that's a surprise, that because you're here with Coaster Stock, you get priority seating on Saturday to Gazillion Bubbles. Maybe there is, after the show, there's a private, just for Coaster Stock members, a Q&A with whoever is doing that show. There's a number of them that do that. There was a woman that did it at Dollywood. We had a guy last year at Kings Island, so who knows if it's the same guy, different person, whatever. But maybe there's like a Q&A with that. So those are the kind of things that I think, to me would be some surprises, or maybe a guest speaker that comes out to one of the, either the lunch or the dinner one of those days that they weren't expecting.
Is it you?
No. I will be in Indiana.
So you say
that weekend.
Hmm.
Yeah. So no, I will not be I will not be a guest speaker at Coaster Stock. And I do want to say, while we're talking about Coaster Stock, this was something that in creating the event back in 2015, I wanted it to be something that was a little bit different than the other events out there. It was, you got the ERT and some of these other things, but it was going to be about bringing all these like-minded people together.
Mm-hmm.
To just enjoy a couple of days at the park. Big family reunion. You get to see your friends, every year there. You get to make new friends. You look forward to seeing them the next year. So I just want to say, if you're going to Coaster Stock, I hope you have a fantastic time, and that you enjoy seeing, old friends, but also making new ones.
I almost teared up with that one, Don. That was the perfect answer.
It comes from the heart, Ryan.
Sorry. Okay. Kevin from Ohio said, nope, I take that back. We'll get to you in a second, Kevin. Ray from Atlanta, Georgia said, I discovered your podcast back in December, and you got me. I'm making my first ever trip to Kings Island this June. Which roller coaster would you recommend I ride first? I'm trying to decide whether to spend 2 days at Kings Island or split the trip and check out Kentucky Kingdom, which I've never visited either. Tough one.
Yeah, well, Ray, which roller coaster should you ride first? I would, depending on what time you get, if you get there right away in the morning, ride the Beast, because you want to do that twice at least. You want to do one during the day, you want to do one at night. So in the morning, the line's not going to be as long as it will be midday. So I would definitely take advantage of that. Get your Beast right in the morning. Make sure that you ride it again at night. So for the roller coasters, that's what I would have, as first on my list. Is there one that you would recommend, Ryan?
My heart says Diamondback, but my head says the Beast, because both of which kind of garner long lines potentially. But you do make a good point. The Beast is two different experiences, day and night. So
yeah, you gotta do both.
You can probably ride the Beast with a minimal wait first thing in the morning, and then at night you will wait. It'll be so worth your wait. Second part of the question though is, does he do 2 days?
Well, I want one other thing too. I think you're coming from Atlanta. I imagine you've been to Six Flags over Georgia. If you like the American Scream Machine, you're going to absolutely love the Racer. And make sure that you ride each side. They got the red side, the blue side. Make sure that you ride both. Uh, the experiences, the similarities are different. I mean, there's a little bit different feel on each side, so make sure that you get that as well. So the second part of the question, Ryan?
2 days at Kings Island or split the time between Kentucky Kingdom and Kings Island?
Well, while you're in the area, you're down this way, I would certainly consider going to Kentucky Kingdom. They've got a lot of good things going on there. They've opened a new area. They've added 3 new rides. They've rethemed, several others. They really made a big jump last year, with the dining experience. I would definitely consider that. And if you're somebody that's an aquatics person, they have a terrific water park. So that would be something to take advantage of too. So I would think while you're down, this way in the area, it's only a couple hours from Kings Island. It's on your way, going back. If you're driving, it's back 75. Going south again, you just take that Louisville exit. I mean, why not? You're in the area. So for me, if I was looking to make the most out of my trip, I would do both.
I don't disagree. Honestly, it's like T3 was a guilty pleasure of mine compared to others, but what do they call it, like Wilderness Run now, the wooden coaster? They renamed it. It was Thunder Run. That is, you talk about a Din Corporation ride that's like redeeming to the whole company. That ride's wonderful. But
yeah, I rode that 80 times in one day with a friend of the show, Jess Novak. We couldn't get enough of it. It was 1992.
I remember you telling me about that.
1992. Yeah, we had oh my god, we just had like the best day that day, and it was nothing planned. A lot of times when you have those days like that where you really get big ride numbers on one thing, you don't go into the park thinking today's the day I'm going to get 80 rides on this coaster. It doesn't happen like that. So it was just something that we were just having fun, and we were tracking what we were riding, and next thing you know, we're like, wow, we got 37 on this. Let's keep riding. And the crew, noticed us, and we were having so much fun with them. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of memories there for me at Kentucky Kingdom.
Kevin from Ohio said, what will be around longer in Northeast Ohio? Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point or Shedeur Sanders with the Cleveland Browns? That's a deep one.
Excellent question. I'm going to say Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point will be around longer. I know there's a lot thinking that Top Thrill 2 might only last a season or two, but even if it does, I think the problem you have with Shedeur Sanders is he's not likely to be the starting quarterback. He was taken in the 5th round. They drafted another quarterback in the 3rd round that they like better. They've got a couple of veteran quarterbacks there, Joe Flacco being one of them. So the one thing that NFL teams do not like is having a celebrity backup quarterback.
Yeah.
They want that backup quarterback if they went into a restaurant, a shopping center, grocery store, that nobody recognizes the backup quarterback. That's what teams want in the NFL out of a backup quarterback. They don't want distractions. They don't want a celebrity backup. So that being the case, unless he wins the starting job, I think he could be gone before week 1 in the NFL this year.
The Browns have always been a revolving door. I would say that he will not be around. He will not still be with Cleveland, at least when Top Thrill 2 closes for the season, assuming it lasts all season this time. I don't see that. Now, I do see him bouncing around to be backups at a couple different teams. I could see.
Yeah, that same situation, though. If he's going to be a backup, you don't want that celebrity backup.
No, I agree. And I think that he's going to be a distraction in the locker room. And we're getting way too far into the Shedeur Sanders side of this thing, the Top Thrill 2 side of it. But I think he'll have a 2-year career of being with 2 or 3 teams for a few months as a backup.
Interesting question, though.
Very interesting.
Outside the box. We like that.
Jay from Piqua, Ohio, and fellow Cricket Club member. He said, this will be my wife and I's first year going to both Food and Wine and Grand Carnival at Kings Island. Could you give us some quick things about both events that we should definitely do or experience, and maybe some that are skippable in both of your opinions?
Well, for me, I didn't really get to experience enough with Food and Wine last year. I mean, it was the first year for it. They had some, some food, charcuterie boards, things like that. I enjoyed that, but I'm not a wine person, So for me, that event wasn't going to, if I was going to try different wines, and that wasn't something that was for me. So in that respect, if you like wine, I think you'll enjoy it. So you want to try those out. But for me, the entertainment piece of it is something that would be something you want to check out. You want to relax. They're building that new area for this. So I really think that this event is going to really be elevated this year. I thought everything they did, I mean, you could tell that the park, the people involved in setting it up, they put a lot of effort into it. Tower Gardens looked great. The entertainment was great. I thought the food that I did have there, was pretty good. A little different than what you get anywhere else in the park. So in that respect, I enjoyed it. But I think if you're somebody that enjoys wine, try the different samples that you have there. There's wines from all around the world, they say on the website, and also get a good seat for the entertainment, because I think that that's the best part of it.
Yeah, definitely check out the entertainment. Now, we don't know what the entertainment's going to be like this year. It was great last year and it was very widespread, but these events evolve over time. I too did not try any of the wine. I'm not a big wine guy. And the food that I had like, I think they called it the bread basket or something, which I would not recommend. But again, I mean, this is year 2, so we're almost certainly not going to have the same experience this year that we did last year, for better or worse. Now, Grand Carnival, right. First of all, don't miss the parade. That's obvious. Probably watch it on International Street, especially if the parade's late again, like when it's dark out. If they have the tasting card, 100% do that. You can spend a whole night just going around tasting stuff. Tasting card is a little pricey, but what's a night out of entertainment? And then you and your wife can share it if you want to.
Yeah, if they don't have the tasting card, it makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah.
To enjoy the different food that they have. You don't really get to experience the full spectrum of Grand Carnival because you're limited to, maybe just one or two things that you're going to try. You're right, though, Ryan. The hero of Grand Carnival is the parade. You want to make sure that you don't miss that. You want to make sure that you get a great spot.
Yeah.
For it. So, Ryan, do you have any recommendations on where Jay should watch?
Well, like I said,
the Grand Carnival parade?
Last year, the place was International Street. They did the parade at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So it was, or maybe even 9:30. I can't remember. So it's pretty late. And they integrated the lights on International Street to be a part of Grand Carnival. So that was awesome. Coney Mall's play. You and I watched it in Coney Mall several times, which is fine if you want to watch it. But International Street's kind of, it's like watching the Disney parade on Main Street, USA. You just got it.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it, Jay.
I think you will too. Grand Carnival is one of my favorite things they do. Don, if you've got questions, where do you submit them?
You want to submit them through our X, which is tower_topics. Just hit the direct message. Or you can also send them to me by email, put in the subject line, question for TT. Send it to donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. And make sure either way that you send your question that you include your first name, city, and state. We like to know where our listeners are listening and where those questions are being submitted from. So, if you have any kind of question about Kings Island or just something that's outside the box, like Kevin from Ohio had, just throw it our way.
Yeah. And, we'll talk about T-shirts, but we have something new to talk about as well.
We do. We got Tower Topic stickers. They're now available. They're perfect for your car, tumbler, a mug, a water bottle, or really any hard surface. The sizes and pricing, they include shipping. We have 4.5 inch by 3 inch. Those are $5 each. They're ideal for the tumblers and the water bottles. And they're 6.5 inch by 4 inch. Those are $7 each. Those are perfect for like car windows. So if you want a Tower Topic sticker, just let me know, which is again Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com, and in the subject line just put stickers, and then we'll send you the QR code, and once the transaction goes through, we'll quickly get those stickers out to you.
Yeah, and likewise with the T-shirts, they come in a wicked green, available in all sizes, $22 including shipping. Man,
that's right. And the same thing, same places to send that you're going to send your questions. You can send those as well to inquire about the T-shirts, and just put T-shirts in the subject line if you're going to email it. And Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com, and we'll get those T-shirts out to you quickly. The Wicked Green has been very popular, Ryan. I've had we've had a number of people that got the blue,
Mm-hmm.
and then they've circled back and they've also got the green, and they tell me that they like the green better.
Yeah, I don't want to put this photo up because I don't want to dox anybody, but we did get a report of somebody getting a Wicked Green for their birthday. They had a Kings Island themed birthday, and the Tower Topics t-shirt was part of their birthday gift. So happy birthday to that person, and that's awesome. Yeah. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.